Hello guys and gals, me Mudahar, and today we gotta look at the controversy of Palworld. You know, a day ago I made a video talking about this game, basically telling you that I enjoy it. Today we're looking at the actual controversies. Did this game steal from Nintendo? Is Nintendo gonna sue them? And God forbid, is it doing something haram, like using artificial intelligence to generate some of the art assets? Today, we're going to try to find the answers to these questions in an investigative report that I like to call the Controversies of Palworld. Now, this starts off with Palworld basically patting itself on the back and telling us that it sold 4 million copies in only 3 days. 3 days they sold 4 million copies of a game that's also available for free on Game Pass, okay? Momentum has increased since yesterday, with the latest sales at 86,000 units per hour, okay? So that's a lot of units sold, okay? That's a lot of copies of a game that kind of dropped seemingly out of nowhere and sold a lot. In fact, it didn't just sell a lot. Right now, in the dead of night, 3 in the morning, witching hour, it's getting 896,000 people playing right now. In fact, looking at the Steam charts itself, it's actually beat the, well, it didn't beat the all-time peak of Counter-Strike, but a 24-hour peak, it did beat. See, Palworld is one of the top 10 games in Steam's all-time history that's actually like breaking like records. So if you want to compare it, ladies and gentlemen, it's beaten Baldur's Gate 3. It hasn't beaten Dota 2, slightly just under it. We're talking a few thousand players. And of course, PUBG remains the champion by a large margin of the all-time Steam peak. Palworld really did seemingly come out of nowhere. And I say seemingly because obviously, as you know, in the last several years, survival games have taken off, okay? Survival games are still an era of, or an aspect of gaming, or a genre of gaming that millions of people love to play, okay? You put a podcast on the side, you sit down, and you play a game with your brain turned off for hours on end. And you just progress by building a cabin, then a mansion, then a crack mansion. You know, you might tame a few dinosaurs or monsters, upgrade your weapons piecemeal at a time. There are so many types of these games that exist, and the gameplay loops that they provide, if they are fed well, if they are done right, can keep people playing for hours on end, okay? People literally come home from working their job to play another job, and this isn't new. We've been doing this since the days of Shenmue, okay? Whether we be working forklifts or flying through the galaxies in No Man's Sky, survival games ain't going anywhere. But with Pokemon, as you all know, has gotten such a negative rap in the last several releases that we have come to basically making fun of this franchise. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are typically hated by the grand majority of people that like to rip on them, at least if you watch it on YouTube, right? There's a lot of people, me included, that call Game Freak out on their laziness, okay? The fact that this game comes out on the same piece of hardware that, Tears of the Kingdom, Xenoblade, Shin Megami Tensei 5 exist, yeah, this is the same platform that has all of those games and still sits with a dud we call Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. But see, Nintendo doesn't actually care about that, because for every single person shitting on it on the internet, I'm just going to show you the sales quote of Pokemon. According to the company, Scarlet and Violet are the most pre-ordered titles in the series' history. So that alone should tell you it doesn't matter how many copies of Palworld is sold. Pokemon is still the king. And of course, within 3 days of its release, the game has sold over 10 million copies worldwide. The sales figure was the highest of any software on any Nintendo platform within 3 days. So yes, by September 2023, the game has sold 23.23 million copies. So to give you a quick idea here, ladies and gentlemen, no matter how much you make fun of Game Freak, in Nintendo's eyes, they are worth more than the guys that develop Zelda, Xenoblade, fucking Mario, any of their IPs. Pokemon is still printing yen, dollars, bahts, euros, whatever currency you can imagine, okay? So Palworld isn't really infringing on Nintendo. But there have been a lot of people who have basically called out Palworld for its rather, I guess you could say, plagiarized assets. So we're going to look at the definition of plagiarism. Plagiarism is a representation of another person's language, thoughts, ideas, or expressions as one's own original work. And again, if we look at copyright infringement, which I think more so applies to this situation, copyright infringement occurs when a person uses content protected by copyright in a way that violates rights granted in the Copyright Act. Now, to understand, there's been a few people who've said, I can't wait for the Nintendo lawsuit to come in. And here's the thing, Palworld, for anybody following the development of this game, it was actually announced 2 years ago. In fact, specifically, June 5th, 2021 is when the announced trailer had actually dropped. And I watched this announced trailer, and without a shadow of a doubt, a lot of the actual designs of the actual, PALs do exist in this original release. However, what I also see in this original release is some of these cool animations that I don't actually see in the final build of the game. It actually seems like this stuff never actually made it. But if you look closely, you can see that these sheeps, actually a lot of the mons that are actually in Palworld do seem to exist in this situation. And their concept of Pokemon with guns is still very much alive here. So yeah, these designs were shown years ago, and Nintendo did not give a flying hoot about it. So here's some of the most egregious examples of, I guess you could say, copyrighted or Pokemon that are a little bit too close to the actual Game Freak variant. This is Lamball, one of the first mons you find in Palworld. And of course, if you compare this a little bit with Wooloo, you might notice, whoa, hot damn, that's a bit too similar than I would expect. I mean, it's got the same poofball style. It's missing the buttons here compared to Lamball. And of course, if we look at the horns over here, yeah, the horns are there. Slightly different color. I don't know if that might be the lighting. Actually, it is a different color. The ears, which are, sort of aiming to the side. You got ears that are kind of aiming to the ground. But of course, you're missing the actual dreadlocks. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I would say that it's probably an inspired asset. For copyright infringement, these things typically have to be one-to-one. And there are, I guess, enough differences that appear where this isn't going to be taken to court. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but again, this is not a exact one-to-one rip. Not to say that it isn't, very inspired. So of course, this, ladies and gentlemen, right here is Dire Howl. Now, this looks suspiciously close to Lycanroc. Now, again, I'm just kind of putting it out there. These are wolves at the end of the day, wolf-type Pokemons. And last I checked, wolves look pretty similar to one another, okay? Because look, at the end of the day, it's a wolf Pokemon, right? I don't think you can draw a wolf that differently. Now, again, is it one-to-one? Obviously not. This is where it gets really egregious, though, okay? So the examples I showed you so far, they had their differences. But ladies and gentlemen, this right here is Anubis, okay? Quite literally, it is Anubis. That is the Palworld equivalent of it. Don't believe me? Palworld Anubis. That's literally what it's called. I'm not even joking with you. That's the actual name. They didn't even change it. Now, Anubis is an Egyptian god, and if you know anything about ancient Egyptian gods, you could probably see, oh shit, I can see why this is Anubis. You got that kind of design going on, cool. Now, if you're a Pokemon aficionado, you probably know I'm about to show you Lucario, which, from what I understand, is also based on Anubis, okay? Lucario is a Canid-like Pokemon partly based on Anubis. Now look, there are similarities here, but unless we're going to start digging up the tombs in Egypt and start taking this to court between ancient Egypt and modern day civilizations like ours, I don't think anybody's going to be testing it. But again, clearly you could see that this is the Lucario version, or at least what's the closest to it. Now this right here, ladies and gentlemen, is Lifmunk from Palworld, and if you look at it, obviously this is kind of similar to Leafeon. Again, there are still some differences. This kind of looks like a Pikachu. What is the smaller version? Like the Pichu / Leafeon version. Okay, so there's definitely some aspects, I would say, or some inspiration, it seems, from some Pokemon fused together. Now look, these are just some similarities I found. Other users on the internet were quick to find that apparently fake or fan-made Pokemon may have been ripped directly. Now this is more egregious than anything Game Freak had too. This account by Barbie Elite actually showed the one Mon in Palworld, Arsox, and then they compared it to, I shit you not, this is a Pokemon known as Flareys from a fan game known as Pokemon Sage, okay? So if you're looking at both these Pokemon or both these like monsters, you can see that there's definitely more similarities here than anything Game Freak might have brought on. Again, if you squint your eyes, it might even appear to be the same exact goddamn monster. So yes, there's definitely inspirations being taken on development of this game. And whether you want to get into the plagiarism argument or the copyright infringement, those are all for courts to decide. And ultimately, I don't think Nintendo or really any company are taking these people to court. So that's one of the first glaring bits of controversy that have come out. And look, at the end of the day, there's plenty of monster capturing games out there. You can go into the Digimon franchise. You can go into, I would say, Shin Megami in a way. Shin Megami Tensei is kind of like a monster capturing type of game. And you might decide to jump into that franchise. And there's plenty of these types of games that exist. Even on Steam, games like Cassette Beasts exist, which if you're into monster capturing type games, Pokemon type stuff, they exist beyond just Palworld. Palworld just happens to capitalize on that whole survival aspect, that survival game, the Arc fix, the Pokemon fix that people have been craving for, but we'll get to that towards the end. So the next big allegation here, beyond just plagiarism or, copyright infringement, right, is the actual allegation of artificial intelligence. Now, for anybody that knows, AI, generative AI, in the world of art is kind of a taboo thing. A lot of people believe that AI, generative or whatever, computer artificial intelligence will take away jobs from, hardworking artists that exist. Now, look, I get that sentiment. I feel it 100%. But at the same time, a lot of companies are pushing for AI, and these tech companies, these big organizations, are going to get their sway. They are going to get what they want. With things like ChatGPT, with things like the DALL-E image engine, there's going to be lots of AI, and it consistently gets better over time. Trying to stop it, in my opinion, is one of those things that is a waste of time. What should be done is actually focusing on laws that are centered around making sure the people who these AIs train off of are protected legally. Okay, that's where I think the focus should be. You can't ever stop AI. It's the genie in the bottle that has jumped out, okay? And honestly, all you can do is regulate at least how it trains and the type of data it takes, and trying to provide the people that it learns from some form of compensation, which I think is about the most fair thing imaginable. Look, we can have the AI art debate all day, every day, but it's not really going to get us anywhere that we haven't really discussed at all, even on this channel. So one of the actual posts that I saw was Palworld's success is proof that despite protestations, most people will cave and use an AI product because of some loophole. It's fun. It doesn't feel like AI. It'll be a sad day when this happens on a wide scale for other creative endeavors, books, music, art. It sucks. Now, I understand the sentiment over here, but it's so insane to see 8,000 likes and not a single shred of proof that AI has actually been used in this situation. So I decided to look at the actual history of this developer and see if AI was used or not. So fact of the matter, the company that designed Palworld is known as Pocket Pair. Now, if you don't know Pocket Pair, they've made other games. So we're going to look at each and every single one of them, and we're going to see just how unique this game company is. So if you look at Nevergrave, for instance, Nevergrave, The Witch and the Curse, if you actually scroll down and look at just the gameplay for it, you might notice, oh, damn, Muda, that looks a lot like Hollow Knight. I mean, literally, that is shot for shot. If you squint your eyes a little bit, it is very inspired by Hollow Knight. Their other big game is Craftopia, which is the open world survival crafting game. And by far, this might be the worst actual example. This might be worse than anything Palworld's done. If Nintendo isn't suing them for effectively creating the Unity asset flip version of Breath of the Wild, at least from this introduction cutscene, I haven't even seen this since I played this game, I would say a year ago before any of this was introduced. This is pretty bad. But again, it's a game with fishing, dungeoneering, vehicles, and whatnot. It's again just a crafting game with a very heavy inspiration from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. So again, if you look even more, one of their games is AI Art Imposter. And this is where they actually brazenly showcase that they use artificial intelligence within it. So AI Art Imposter is a quick $7 video game where it literally is them actually using artificial intelligence. Now, this is the only game where they actually use generative artificial intelligence in order to facilitate their game. It very much is them admitting that they are using AIs in their title. Now, is it a great game? I personally haven't jumped into it. I personally don't care too much about it, but this is a key example of one of their games actually using AI generative art. And they've fully admitted that this game does use it. It's not that they're hiding it or anything. So if they're so brazen about admitting it for one of their titles, they should pretty much be honest about admitting it for every other title that they put it into. And it's not even like the CEO of this company is against talking about how much they jerk off AI. So there's actually a couple tweets from them that are a bit eye-opening. So back around in March of 2023, literally Takuro Mizobi, who is literally the founder of Palworld, or this company, the game company behind them, and also a company known as CoinCheck, which we'll get to in a bit. Takuro actually says, Pocket Pair, the result of introducing AI to improve business efficiency. Employees started to hand over all of their work to AI, but the quality was so high that they were disappointed. So yeah, this person enjoys AI. They believe this is actually a future. And again, here he's even discussing that they're having so much fun creating crazy artificial intelligence that they're not even making any progress at all. This person loves AI, okay? And this is a very important thing for them and their company. So again, I decided to look more into who Takuro was, and I wanted to see like what other companies that he was running. And one of them was CoinCheck. Now, for those of you who don't know CoinCheck, I believe this is their website. Own your first cryptocurrency on CoinCheck. This is an exchange platform that is, again, headquartered in Japan at the moment. Now, again, what it appears to be is CoinCheck is one of the companies that Takuro was like originally one of the founders on. They don't actually list him as a founder in their very recent like Wikipedia entry. And again, going to their website, I can't actually navigate and translate it properly, so I can't confirm if Takuro is exactly with the company as of now. But looking at CoinCheck, they're basically a wallet and exchange service. And if you actually look down over here, they apparently have partnered with some pretty big names for Chinese, Hong Kong, and Taiwanese investors to start buying actual Japanese real estate with Bitcoin. Then they also have a hacking incident. Back in 2018, CoinCheck was hacked for approximately 500 million NEM tokens, which equates to $530 million. What? Hold on a minute. That's a whole. I gotta write that video idea down. That's crazy. $500 million stolen. That is insane. We gotta look into that one, but that's for a later date. The currency was transferred through a total of 19 accounts, one of which was found to have no connection with the hackers. The hack led two of Japan's cryptocurrency trade groups to merge into a new self-regulatory agency. You know when you fuck up so bad that they gotta start making self-reg organizations just to make sure that this doesn't happen again, which is true. That should happen 100% of the time. But Jesus Christ, I'm still shocked by $530 million being stolen. After the hack, CoinCheck suspended trading temporarily and reimbursed its customers for their losses. Okay, that's actually great, but I still want to know how $500 million got stolen, but that's not the point of today's video. So looking at Pocket Pair's website, I looked at their CEO, again, this is Takuro Mizobe, and again, yes, 2014, they founded that company, CoinCheck. They also founded Pocket Pair a year later. But see, if you look at their history, they're like joining JP Morgan Securities. Like this person seems like a fintech bro, somebody into AI, into things like cryptocurrency. And now they're spearheading game design, game development, which again leads people to insinuate that maybe there's generative AI being used in Palworld. But there's no definitive proof one way or the other. So again, they started off with DS development at a Nintendo game seminar back in 2010. And this is when I dug even further into a Wired Japan article when they actually went and started discussing with him. And there was actually a quote that I shit you not is going to blow your mind. And this is by John Cartwright, who actually translated and mentioned this out. I've always loved Nintendo games, and that hasn't changed. I also deeply respect him. However, when it comes to making games, Nintendo has a strong philosophy of creating new and unique games with high quality. And this was questioned at the Nintendo Game Seminar. What? What, isn't that what you want? You want new and unique. That's what, listen, as much as I shit on Nintendo, I love when they make unique genre defining games, okay? Nintendo makes high quality slop, okay? It is good slop. Let's not pretend otherwise. On the other hand, I have a deep-rooted desire for my work to be enjoyed by as many people as possible, and to that end, if there are good ideas in the world, I pick them up. And I don't necessarily have to be particular about originality. I'm thinking about it. I want to make it more casually, or rather, I want to make it more casually. I think it would be a good idea to create things in a way that just jumps on what is trendy, LOL. So yeah, this guy doesn't really want to create things that are new and unique. And it kind of shows for a lot of the games in their list. Look, whether you look at Craftopia, whether you look at Hollow Knight Electric Boogaloo, and whether you look at Palworld, clearly they are taking inspirations from well-crafted ideas, like well-established franchises, like Pokemon, for instance, like Monster Hunter, like Ark Survival Evolved. They are taking the best bits and pieces and putting it together for the ultimate Steam slop, okay? That's effectively what we've got going on over here. So again, is this all generative artificial intelligence? Have they been using AI to produce this game? Doesn't seem like there's any actual evidence to that allegation, ladies and gentlemen. And look, when I think about AI, this is like what I guess some people are saying. It's like generate me an electric Pokemon that looks. Generate me an electric Pokemon. There it is. All right, boom. You can just ask Bing to produce this for you, and it's going to create a quick image. So let's let Bing cook for a minute. Then here it is, boys. Bing is done cooking. So when you actually look into Bing, you can see that, yes, it's generated me Pikachus. It's generated what appears to be this, I guess, Squirtle Pikachu crossover. And you got like a Raichu over here. So yeah, this is like, again, an AI's interpretation of what it could consider. And somebody could take this design, which I don't believe is an actual Pokemon, correct me if I'm wrong, and just turn that into a 3D model. And of course, fix up some of the issues that AI does with its generation. Look, there's nothing that says generative AI couldn't be used. Obviously, if it means that that's how they created like 2 or like 100 designs and then 3D modeled whatever they had. Maybe they generated 1,000 different versions of like Pokemon and just specifically like, picked out the best 100 and then 3D modeled them. But if we look at some of the relationships to like actual Pokemon versus what they have in the game, it's clear that they are definitely inspired very heavily by actual Pokemon designs, and in some cases, even fan fake Pokemon designs, which is insane. Now, look, I think it's a safe way to say that one of their biggest controversies is how much they've been inspired. And look, at the end of the day, we can talk about parodies, we can talk about inspirations, but yes, none of this game is a direct one-to-one in terms of design, and nothing is really going to get taken to court. If it was going to get taken to court, it would have already gone through, in my opinion, considering this game and most of its like designs that are still carried into the final release were shown 2 years ago. The discussion around generative artificial intelligence is one of, I think, genuine concern. Look, there are artists that are worried heavily, 100%, about if their jobs are on the line. And look, the problem with AI is not so much how it takes away the jobs, is that in order to create the AI, it scrapes tons of actual copyrighted material off of the internet and learns off of it. Now look, I'm also a realist. I get it. AI is the future, and companies are slowly perfecting these tools in order for them to actually start replacing or streamlining development of movies, television, music, and video games. It's just an unfortunate inevitability. But that being said, in a situation like this, it is an unfounded allegation. Because yes, even if the actual developer jerks off artificial intelligence like the Second Coming, it doesn't actually mean that it's part for the course over here. Now, the other big thing that I have to ask is, where did this game kind of come from and why is it selling millions of copies? Look, at the end of the day, I understand this game is actually in a perfect storm, right? It's got a bunch of streamers who are currently talking about it. I played this game and enjoyed it. I think what really works with this is obviously it's catering to a lot of niches, like the Ark survival community, the survival game community, the Pokemon community, which has been so neglected and so underserved to its core fan base that now anybody can take what appears to be a Unreal Engine asset flip game like Palworld and just hype it up to no end. Because at the end of the day, the community, at least on PC and consoles that aren't Nintendo, want Pokemon games. They want Pokemon with guns. They want a Pokemon game that actually has good quality attached to it. And like I said in my video a day ago, I really do think this game, at least from a quality perspective, feels better than whatever Game Freak has pooped out. But ultimately, that also being said, it's a game that is shipped day one, even in early access, to be relatively bug-free. And I think that really speaks for how fucked the industry is, when for us, a barometer of what is a good, enjoyable game is if it just works out of the box. Does it hit 60 frames a second? Does it run relatively well? Are the bugs kept to a minimum? That's our barometer for success. And honestly, in some ways, that's pretty sad to think about. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to look into the various controversies of Palworld. It's a game that, despite its popularity, has been marred in so much controversy that literally everyone I talk to either sucks this game off or hates it because of the allegations of artificial intelligence. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm going to leave you with the real intelligence to decide what's really the matter of the fact. I've looked through all of the facts. I've come to my own conclusions. Let me know what yours are. That said, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. I am out.